The galaxy had long dismissed Earth as insignificant, a backwater planet of fragile life clinging to a blue orb orbiting an average star, a speck among countless civilizations that wielded powers humanity could barely comprehend. From the observation decks of distant starships, alien diplomats and military commanders had scoffed at the notion that these humans, with their primitive technology and fragile bodies, could ever pose a threat to the vast empires that span hundreds of light years. The first warning came in whispers, ancient records buried in interstellar archives mentioning Earth as a world whose inhabitants were unusually resilient, unpredictable, and capable of unanticipated innovation. But these warnings have been ignored as relic superstition, unworthy of attention in the face of polished fleets and towering star fortresses. The first attacks were small, probing incursions, a few unarmed ships slipping past border patrols, scanning, mapping, assessing, confident that the humans would crumble under even minimal pressure. But the humans did not respond with panic or retreat. Instead, they observed, adapted, and quietly prepared. Scientists and engineers, often dismissed as simple academics, worked tirelessly to reverse engineer the alien technologies that had been intercepted or captured during these early skirmishes, turning curiosity into strategy, fragility into resilience. Cities that appeared vulnerable from orbit were, in fact, fortified with hidden layers of electromagnetic shielding, rapid deployment drone systems, and automated defense grids that could anticipate patterns of attack with terrifying accuracy. Meanwhile, humanity's leaders convened in secure subterranean bunkers, a council composed of political minds, military tacticians, and pioneering scientists, blending old-world wisdom with cutting-edge innovation, debating, planning, and waiting for precise moment to make the galaxy pay attention. When the aliens launched their first overt assault, expecting compliance or surrender, they were met not with open battle but with calculated disruption. Communications networks were scrambled, supply lines severed with surgical precision, and the ships meant to intimidate found themselves lost in navigational traps that the humans had prepared in silence. For months, the alien fleets underestimated the humans at every turn, misreading hesitation for weakness, delay for indecision, and in every encounter, the humans learned more about their adversaries, analyzing their strengths, exploiting their overconfidence, and preparing for the day when the galaxy would finally understand the true cause of underestimating Earth. Citizens, oblivious to the scope of the preparations above and beneath their cities, continued with lives that seemed ordinary, a stark contrast to the intense strategic choreography happening in the shadows. Engineers in cramped labs devised energy manipulation devices that could disable entire squadrons, pilots trained in simulations that mimicked alien combat maneuvers until instinct overrode hesitation, and diplomats communicated with neighboring systems to subtly manipulate alliances and sow confusion among the aggressors. When the attacks escalated, targeting key planetary installations with the assumption that humans would be desperate to negotiate, the response was both elegant and devastating. Alien ships that had approached with arrogance were suddenly immobilized by pulses of energy that disrupted power systems and forced retreats. Automated drones swarmed with relentless precision, and tactical countermeasures anticipated every maneuver, leaving the attackers confused, frustrated, and increasingly aware that humanity's so-called weakness was a deliberate camouflage for unparalleled preparedness. The galaxy, which had long prided itself on technological supremacy, political cunning, and centuries of military dominance, began to experience a creeping dread as reports came in from multiple sectors. Fleets crippled without explanation, mining colonies liberated and reinforced with defensive technologies no one had seen before, and a pattern of resilience that suggested humans were not merely reactive but proactive, turning every miscalculation against the aggressors. Intelligence networks were compromised in ways that made seasoned strategists question their understanding of information warfare. Communications were intercepted, false orders inserted. An entire campaign collapsed due to a combination of misdirection and the humans' uncanny ability to anticipate moves that, to alien logic, should have been impossible to predict. And yet, despite the growing chaos of their enemies, humans maintained discipline and focus. There was no overreach, no needless aggression, only precision, adaptation, and an unwavering commitment to protect their world and assert their place in the galaxy. As the first wave of alien invaders retreated in confusion and damaged pride, reports of Earth's hidden capabilities began to leak through interstellar channels, whispers that transformed into urgent dispatches. Humanity, once ignored, had been quietly building a defensive and offensive infrastructure that rivaled entire sectors of galactic power, and their patience, their strategic cunning, and their ingenuity had created a situation where any further provocation would not result in negotiation or surrender, but in decisive retribution. In secret, human scientists unveiled projects that had once seemed like science fiction, ships capable of interstellar travel with near-instantaneous maneuvering, energy weapons calibrated to disrupt alien shields and propulsion systems, and defensive arrays that could protect entire planetary surfaces without revealing their presence until activated. The leadership, composed of individuals who had once been underestimated in intergalactic councils, coordinated global defense with an almost artistic precision, blending tactics across military, technological, and diplomatic arenas. Civilian populations, though largely unaware of the full scale of preparations, contributed through specialized industries, education programs, and volunteer networks that ensured the planet's readiness for any escalation. The aliens, observing from afar, began to recognize that the humans' restraint had been deliberate, their apparent vulnerability a calculated deception, and the first true panic began to set in among species that had long assumed Earth would yield a superior firepower. As the humans continued to adapt and refine their strategies, they extended aid to neighboring species who had been subjugated or threatened by the same aggressors, reinforcing the idea that humanity's rise was not just a matter of vengeance but a principle of defending those who could not defend themselves. This approach, blending empathy with tactical genius, amplified the humans' reputation across the stars. Intelligence report described societies that had once viewed humans as insignificant beginning to reconsider, reevaluate, and in some cases, seek alliances with Earth rather than oppose it. And so, as the first coordinated human counteroffensive began, fleets once confident in their superiority were confronted with tactics they had never anticipated, technology that nullified their advantages, and an unshakable determination from a species that had been underestimated at its peril. Every attack launched against humanity was met with a calculated response. Every attempt to intimidate was countered with strategic brilliance, and every misjudgment by the alien compounded the eventual cost they would pay. The galaxy, for the first time in centuries, began to understand that humans were not merely survivors or adaptable creatures. They were innovators, strategists, and warriors in ways that defied conventional wisdom. And as humanity prepared for the next phase of engagement, their leadership recognized that the ultimate victory would not come from brute force alone, but from the combination of intellect, resilience, and a willingness to act decisively when the moment demanded it, ensuring that the galaxy would never again consider Earth an inconsequential player, and that any who had once attacked or ignored them would come to understand the true cause of provocation, as the humans unleashed the first wave of their meticulously crafted retribution, precise, overwhelming, and utterly unanticipated by those who had dared to threaten a species that had been underestimated for far too long. The aftermath of the initial counteroffensive left alien fleets reeling and political councils in turmoil as the first full reports of humanity's capabilities filtered through galactic channels, every detail sowing panic and disbelief among species that had long prided themselves on interstellar dominance. The humans, however, remained methodical, almost clinical in their approach, refusing to be drawn into reckless aggression even as they demonstrated overwhelming superiority. Their strategies, designed not only to repel attacks but to communicate a clear message that Earth was no longer a planet to be trifled with. Onboard command ships orbiting human-controlled sectors, alien admirals debated their next moves with growing frustration, realizing that the humans' restraint had allowed them to study every maneuver, exploit weaknesses in formations, and anticipate responses with uncanny precision, while simultaneously extending protective measures to allied or neutral systems that had previously suffered under weight of galactic power struggles. Meanwhile, Earth itself became a hub of quiet but intense activity, where engineers, scientists, and military strategists worked in unison, their coordination blending decades of research with real-time combat feedback, ensuring that every defensive system, every tactical maneuver, and every interstellar deployment functioned in perfect harmony, creating a synchronized network that made humans appear omniscient to outside observers. Communications between human fleets and planetary command centers flowed seamlessly, relying on protocols that could adapt instantly to any attempt at interference, while intelligence divisions intercepted alien transmissions, decrypted complex coding sequences, and fed the resulting insights directly into strategy modules that recalibrated entire operations within minutes. leaving the invaders unable to mount a coherent plan. Among the human commanders, a combination of seasoned veterans and prodigious tacticians developed battle simulations that incorporated alien psychology, culture, and technological tendencies, allowing them to anticipate decisions before they were consciously made, a capability that gave the humans not merely a reactive edge but a proactive dominance over any confrontation, turning what the galaxy had perceived as chaos into orchestrated precision. The aliens, now desperate to regain control of the narrative, attempted diplomatic overtures, sending emissaries laden with offers of truce, gifts, and treaties. But these gestures were met with measured responses from humans who had learned through centuries of observation and historical precedent that half measures rarely prevented conflict. Instead, the humans leveraged these interactions to extract critical intelligence, strengthen their alliances with neighboring systems, and subtly manipulate perceptions across multiple species, turning diplomacy into a strategic weapon as effective as any fleet deployment. On worlds previously thought beyond human influence, covert operations dismantled clandestine networks of control, liberated populations under alien subjugation, and established defenses that combined human ingenuity with adaptive technology, creating fortifications that could react to nearly any offensive without revealing their full capabilities until the moment of engagement. A psychological as well as tactical advantage that further unsettled the galaxy. Within Earth's orbit, orbital defense stations bristled with energy arrays capable of redirecting incoming projectiles, neutralizing enemy propulsion systems, and cloaking human movements until deployment, while unmanned reconnaissance fleets collected continuous data on alien dispositions, feeding battle plans that shifted dynamically as new variables emerged, demonstrating a level of situational awareness unmatched by even the most advanced galactic powers. On the surface, military units trained with precision drills that integrated battlefield simulation, alien combat philosophy, and adaptive decision-making, preparing not only for conventional engagements but for asymmetric warfare scenarios that had been anticipated through careful study of extraterrestrial culture and tactics, ensuring that no matter the form of attack, humans could respond decisively. As the conflict escalated, alien propaganda attempted to paint humanity as reactive, desperate, or reliant solely on superior numbers or luck, but observational intelligence consistently contradicted these claims, showing humans exercising discipline, strategic foresight, and ethical constraints even when opportunities for overwhelming advantage presented themselves, a combination that earned grudging respect from certain factions even amidst fear. Across allied systems, intelligence leaks, deliberate or accidental, began to circulate reports of human interventions that save entire populations from extinction, dismantle oppressive regimes, and stabilize sectors previously consumed by internal conflict, illustrating that humanity's emergence as galactic power was not fueled solely by retaliation but by an active commitment to principle, tactical brilliance, and the protection of the vulnerable, further complicating the response of alien powers accustomed to viewing humans through the lens of weakness or expendability. The galaxy, once confident in its ability to manipulate, dominate, and intimidate, now grappled with a species whose patience, adaptability, and analytical prowess allowed them to turn aggression into a series of defeats of their attackers, exposing every flaw in alien coordination, logistics, and leadership, while simultaneously projecting strength, compassion, and calculated power to potential allies and neutrals alike. Within human command centers, leaders emphasize the importance of timing, psychological impact, and preservation of resources, ensuring that every strike, defensive maneuver, or diplomatic message advance a larger strategy designed to shift the balance of power permanently, teaching the galaxy that provocation carried consequences beyond imagination. Even cultural misunderstandings became instruments of strategy, with humans exploiting assumptions about emotional predictability, honor codes, and hierarchical rigidity among alien species to create openings that would otherwise have remained closed, turning social norms into tactical advantages in ways that the galaxy could not anticipate or counter effectively. As the humans continued a methodical expansion of influence and capability, previously unengaged or neutral species began to reevaluate their positions, some quietly aligning with Earth while others recalculated their risk assessments, recognizing that humanity's blend of restraint, intelligence, and overwhelming capability had redefined the rules of engagement across sectors that had once been dominated by older, complacent empires. The alien leadership, faced with mounting losses, fractured alliances, and the exposure of systemic vulnerabilities, became increasingly erratic, launching desperate offensives that were predicted, countered, and exploited by humans in display of strategic dominance that blended the brilliance of calculated planning with the ruthlessness of precise execution. Every encounter, every maneuver, every calculated response added to a growing reputation that stretched from the edge of the spiral arms to the core of galactic civilization. Humanity was no longer an ignored backwater. They were an emerging apex power whose patience and foresight had been underestimated at their peril. While the humans reinforced offensive perimeters, optimized energy networks, and refined rapid deployment protocols, they also engaged in subtle diplomacy that reshaped political dynamics, turning former aggressors into neutral observers, skeptics into allies, and hesitant civilizations into tentative partners, all the while maintaining capacity to unleash overwhelming force should provocation occur again. And through it all, the humans retained a calculated humility, understanding that the display of strength carried weight, but that excessive aggression without principle could undermine long-term stability. Their measured approach, blending restraint with decisive action, created a level of tension that rippled across the galaxy, forcing even the most audacious powers to reconsider every assumption they had ever made about Earth and its inhabitants, knowing now with certainty that those who had once attacked, ignored, or threatened humanity would ultimately pay a price far beyond what they had anticipated, a price that would be calculated, comprehensive, and entirely unrelenting, leaving the galaxy with a sobering realization that humanity, once dismissed as inconsequential, had become the benchmark against which every other civilization's power, cunning, and resilience would henceforth be measured. The human systematic dismantling of alien dominance continued across multiple star systems, each operation meticulously planned yet executed with an adaptive fluidity that left even the most experienced alien commanders bewildered, and as reports of entire fleets rendered immobile or retreating under precise countermeasures reached galactic communication networks, the perception of humanity shifted from underestimated underdog to a calculated force whose patience and intelligence exceeded all expectations. On Earth, the Council overseeing interstellar operations coordinated these campaigns with a level of precision that blended historical precedent, predictive modeling, and real-time adaptation, drawing on centuries of terrestrial strategy, naval tactics, and scientific innovation to create a multi-layered network of influence and control that spanned not only military and technological arenas, but also political, social, and economic spheres across neighboring systems. Human diplomats worked alongside military strategists to craft communications that misled, manipulated, and destabilized alien alliances, presenting the illusion of vulnerability or indecision at just the right moments while simultaneously strengthening covert defenses, stockpiling resources, and positioning key assets for rapid deployment, creating a dual narrative that left the galaxy unable to discern true intentions until it was too late to respond effectively. Within the human fleets, pilots and commanders coordinated attacks that combined precision strikes, diversionary maneuvers, and psychological tactics designed to exploit every known weakness in alien formations. Simulation drills conducted years prior had trained crews to anticipate the most improbable enemy maneuvers, ensuring that humans could respond instantly to unexpected developments without hesitation, maintaining an operational tempo that consistently forced adversaries into reactive postures. Meanwhile, alien species that had once regarded humans as primitive began to reassess their assumptions, sending reconnaissance probes, covert envoys, and intelligence agents only to have every attempt foiled or turned to advantage by human counterintelligence networks that anticipated alien deception and transformed it into strategic opportunity. Systems once considered secure by the galaxy's established powers were subtly infiltrated by humans, establishing both observation points and defensive measures that could neutralize entire campaigns without revealing their presence until deployment, demonstrating an operational discipline and foresight that alien minds struggled to comprehend. On Earth, civilian innovation hubs contributed in ways that blurred the line between civilian and military effort, with engineers, programmers, and researchers developing technologies that could be applied both in defensive systems and in offensive precision, ensuring that the planet's population actively participated in its own protection and advancement, fostering a sense of unity and purpose that transcended ordinary national or cultural boundaries. The psychological impact of humanity's rising influence extended beyond the battlefield. Entire populations of neighboring species, previously intimidated or subjugated by powerful empires, began to look toward Earth as a model of resilience, innovation, and principled power, while alien commanders and bureaucrats wrestled with a sobering realization that every misjudgment, delay, or dismissal of human capability had been a critical error whose consequences were only now becoming clear. The human's ability to integrate new intelligence into ongoing operations in near real-time created cascading effects that repeatedly disrupted alien strategic planning, forcing them to abandon entrenched doctrines and improvisationally react to a series of outcomes they could not have predicted. Every miscalculated offensive was exploited, every technological advantage neutralized, and every attempt at intimidation transformed into an opportunity for decisive human action. In sectors previously dominated by alien coalitions, liberated populations began to contribute to the stabilization and fortification of their worlds, often under human guidance, creating an exponential effect as knowledge, technology, and defensive infrastructure spread at speeds that traditional interstellar command structures could not match, reinforcing humanity's emergent reputation as both a protective and formidable force. Even when facing adversaries with advanced energy manipulation, faster-than-light maneuvering, or overwhelming firepower, human commanders demonstrated an intuitive grasp of combat dynamics that allowed them to mitigate losses, redistribute forces instantly, and strike where enemies were weakest, turning technological superiority into a neutralized factor rather than a decisive advantage. Alien leaders, desperate to regain control, began convening emergency councils, issuing ultimatums, and attempting to coordinate massive counterattacks. But the humans' proactive strategies and preemptive positioning consistently outpaced these efforts, leaving alien fleets fragmented, their plans compromised, and their morale deteriorating rapidly under the stress of facing an adversary that seemed always one step ahead. Earth's influence extended into economic and cultural arenas as well, with humans using trade, scientific exchange, and shared knowledge to create dependencies and alliances that further isolated aggressive alien factions, subtly shifting the political balance in ways that enhance humanity's strategic leverage without revealing the full extent of their capabilities, ensuring that the galaxy would recognize the consequences of provocation long before the humans themselves needed to act decisively again. Meanwhile, humans engage in selective displays of force designed to communicate both capability and principle, demonstrating that while they possessed overwhelming technological and tactical advantages, their actions were guided by calculated ethics, restraint, and a long-term vision for interstellar stability, creating both fear and respect among former adversaries. In the midst of these operations, the humans maintained rigorous internal discipline, ensuring that the integration of intelligence, technology, and strategic execution remained seamless across multiple theaters of engagement, while also fostering innovation that anticipated the evolution of alien tactics, creating a feedback loop of continuous improvement that reinforced both readiness and adaptability. As humanity's campaign progressed, previously neutral systems increasingly sought alignment with Earth, drawn by the promise of security, technological partnership, and principled leadership, while alien empires found themselves losing influence and control over populations they had assumed were secure, generating internal dissent and fracturing alliances that further amplified humanity's leverage and strategic advantage. The ongoing engagements became a chessboard of galactic scale, where every maneuver was analyzed, counted, and exploited with precision, and where humans consistently demonstrated that patience, observation, and calculated action could transform apparent weakness into unassailable strength, forcing adversaries to confront the terrifying reality that the species they had dismissed as insignificant possessed: the capacity to rewrite the rules of interstellar conflict entirely. Even minor skirmishes became lessons in adaptability, as human forces integrated battlefield observations into ongoing simulations, refined protocols, and preemptively counter potential responses, creating a dynamic operational environment that consistently put alien forces on the defensive. Within alien political and military councils, debates became increasingly frantic, with factions advocating negotiation, withdrawal, or escalation, yet all options were constrained by the undeniable evidence of human mastery across multiple domains, leaving leaders paralyzed between the recognition of past errors and the fear of impending retribution. Simultaneously, humans ensured that humanitarian principles guided interventions, preserving life where possible, protecting populations, and demonstrating a capacity for measured action that contrasted sharply with the recklessness and aggression of the alien powers, reinforcing perception that humanity's emergence was defined by intellect, strategy, and moral calculation, not mere opportunism. Across liberated sectors, humans established systems of governance, resource management, and defensive coordination that reinforce both stability and loyalty, integrating local populations into operational planning and defense initiatives, while also creating networks that could rapidly adapt to any resurgence of hostile activity, ensuring that gains were permanent and secure. As the aliens' repeated failures mounted, the galaxy collectively began to reassess Earth's position, realizing that humanity's combination of patience, intelligence, strategic foresight, and ethical discipline had transformed a once-dismissed species into a decisive and dominant force, capable of dictating the terms of engagement, reshaping political alliances, and imposing consequences for any who dared to underestimate them. The humans, fully aware of the psychological and tactical advantages they held, continued to advance methodically, blending restraint with overwhelming capacity, creating a persistent tension across galactic sectors as the full scope of Earth's capabilities remained partially hidden, deliberately so, until the precise moment when revelation and consequence would be most effective. And so, the galaxy found itself in an uncharted position, fleets immobilized, empires questioning their assumptions, and civilizations forced to recognize that the species they had once attacked, ignored, or threatened now possessed the strategic, technological, and moral authority to dictate outcomes on a scale none had anticipated, ensuring that the price for provocation would be exacted fully, methodically, and without mercy, leaving an indelible mark on the collective memory of all who had ever doubted humanity's potential. As human influence expanded across multiple star systems, the cumulative effect of precision strikes, strategic alliances, and defensive mastery began to crystallize into an unmistakable pattern. Humanity was not only capable of defending itself, but also of shaping the interstellar balance of power to unprecedented degrees, and the galaxy began to realize with growing alarm that every misjudgment, hesitation, or act of arrogance toward Earth carried consequences that could no longer be ignored. On Earth, command centers orchestrated simultaneous campaigns on multiple fronts, blending planetary defense, fleet coordination, and interstellar intelligence gathering in a manner that maximized efficiency while minimizing unnecessary exposure, ensuring that humans remained several steps ahead of any potential adversary. Alien powers, desperate to regain control of contested sectors, initiated increasingly complex maneuvers, attempting to overwhelm human forces with sheer numbers, rapid strikes, or subterfuge, but each effort was meticulously anticipated and countered through adaptive strategies, predictive modeling, and real-time feedback loops that transform conventional superiority into a liability, demonstrating that humanity's mastery lay not merely in technology or numbers, but in insight, planning, and the relentless application of intelligence to every conceivable variable. In sectors previously believed lost to alien influence, humans implemented rapid stabilization operations, establishing governance structures, communication networks, and defensive systems that leverage local knowledge and resources, integrating liberated populations into the broader strategic framework while simultaneously denying aggressors any opportunity to exploit vulnerabilities, creating both immediate tactical advantages and long-term geopolitical stability. Within Fleet Command, human officers coordinated multi-tiered operations combining orbital interdiction, precise targeting of logistical nodes, and psychological disruption, using predictable rigidity of alien doctrines against them, while simultaneously maintaining flexibility to exploit emergent weaknesses, ensuring that no single action could be anticipated with certainty, and that every engagement reinforced the broader narrative of human dominance and strategic foresight. The aliens, increasingly aware of their repeated miscalculations, convened emergency councils, debating whether to negotiate, retreat, or escalate. Yet each option carried risk compounded by humanity's multifaceted approach, which simultaneously projected defensive strength, operational adaptability, and a willingness to act decisively when provoked, creating a strategic dilemma that had no easy resolution. Humans exploited this uncertainty through calibrated demonstrations of force, striking only when tactical advantage was assured, neutralizing threats without unnecessary destruction, and reinforcing perception that Earth's emerging influence was both principled and unstoppable, a combination that sowed fear, respect, and confusion among former aggressors. On worlds liberated from oppressive alien control, human engineers and strategists deployed adaptive technologies capable of responding autonomously to threats, integrating energy shielding, rapid deployment drones, and automated reconnaissance systems that could operate independently while feeding data back to Central Command, creating a decentralized yet coordinated defense network that magnified human operational capacity beyond what conventional understanding would allow. Across liberated sectors, civilians participated actively in reconstruction and defense, contributing specialized knowledge, technical expertise, and local insight that enhanced the efficacy of human-led initiatives, while also cultivating a sense of solidarity, purpose, and loyalty that reinforced both the stability and resilience of newly protected systems. Intelligence networks intercepted, decrypted, and manipulated alien communications with precision, turning attempts at coordination into vulnerabilities that humans could exploit to preempt attacks, reroute resources, or sow internal dissent, demonstrating that the strategic application of information was as potent a weapon as any fleet or energy array, and one that amplified human influence exponentially. The psychological impact of humanity's rising dominance extended beyond immediate military or technological superiority. Entire civilizations that had long dismissed Earth as inconsequential began to reevaluate alliances, trade networks, and defense postures, recognizing that collaboration with humans offered both protection and opportunity, while opposition became increasingly perilous. Within human strategic councils, decisions were guided by the integration of historical knowledge, predictive analytics, and ethical consideration, ensuring that every engagement advanced not only tactical objectives, but also the long-term positioning of humanity as a stabilizing, principled force in the galaxy, capable of imposing consequences without descending into indiscriminate violence, and demonstrating that restraint could be a weapon as formidable as any offensive capability. Alien factions, frustrated by repeated failures and the relentless adaptability of human forces, attempted unconventional strategies, including covert infiltration, propaganda, and targeted strikes. But these too were anticipated and mitigated through layered defenses, contingency planning, and adaptive countermeasures that exploited predictable alien behavior while maintaining operational security, ensuring that humans retained the initiative at every turn. Meanwhile, Earth itself became a hub of innovation, training, and coordination, where civilian and military sectors merged seamlessly to support ongoing campaigns, from advanced propulsion research and energy manipulation technology to logistical coordination and rapid response units, creating an ecosystem of capability that extended humanity's influence far beyond immediate theaters of engagement. Diplomatic channels were used as strategic instruments, subtly shifting alliances, isolating aggressive factions, and reinforcing the legitimacy and credibility of human authority, creating a web of influence that complemented military superiority and further complicated alien strategic calculations, forcing opponents to consider not only the cost of attack but the broader ramifications of any engagement. In battle simulations and live engagements, humans consistently demonstrated an ability to integrate new intelligence instantly, adjust tactics dynamically, and exploit psychological vulnerabilities among alien opponents, ensuring that even the most sophisticated fleets found themselves reacting to circumstances rather than dictating them, and that every encounter reinforced a growing perception of humanity as a masterful, adaptable, and ethically principled power. Across sectors, liberated populations contributed to intelligence, logistics, and local defense, creating a multiplier effect that amplified human operational capacity and further destabilized alien efforts to regain control, while also fostering loyalty, trust, and cultural integration that strengthened long-term stability and resilience. The aliens, confronted with repeated defeats, fractured leadership, and escalating uncertainty, were forced into reactive strategies that further exposed systemic vulnerabilities, illustrating that humanity's patient, measured, and highly adaptive approach could consistently transform potential threats into opportunities, turning every attempt at aggression into a catalyst for further dominance. As humans extended their influence, the galaxy began to grasp the magnitude of their transformation from an underestimated backwaters of species to a decisive power capable of shaping interstellar dynamics, enforcing consequences, and redefining the rules of engagement, ensuring that any species who had once attacked, ignored, or underestimated humanity would come to understand the full cost of provocation, a cost measured not only in material losses but in the undeniable demonstration of human ingenuity, resilience, and strategic mastery. Even as operations continued, humans maintained a balance between display and discretion, revealing enough capability to enforce respect while withholding ultimate strength until a precise moment when decisive action would yield maximum impact, demonstrating that mastery lay not only in power but in timing, calculation, and the orchestration of multiple domains of influence simultaneously. Across the galaxy, reports of human interventions, defensive innovations, and strategic brilliance circulated widely, reinforcing both fear and admiration, while alien powers scrambled to respond, often too late or in ways that compounded their failures, creating an environment where humanity's patience, intelligence, and tactical discipline dictated the tempo, scope, and consequences of interstellar engagement, ensuring that the galaxy would never again treat Earth as insignificant or its inhabitants as inconsequential, and that those who had attacked or underestimated humanity were now beginning to pay a price that would resonate for generations, a price exacted not through recklessness but through meticulous, relentless, and overwhelmingly effective application of strategy, technology, and human will. Humanity's expansion of influence and strategic dominance now reached levels that no alien empire had anticipated, and the cumulative effect of their campaigns had transformed the galaxy into a chessboard where every move, countermove, and calculation seemed to favor Earth. From the command centers orbiting strategic star systems, human leaders orchestrated multi-theater operations that combined orbital interdiction, planetary defense, fleet deployment, and covert intelligence, ensuring that no adversary could gain advantage without first being funneled into predictable patterns designed by meticulous analysis and centuries of tactical theory. Alien fleets that once approached with confidence now hesitated, unsure of how to respond as humans continuously demonstrated an uncanny ability to anticipate maneuvers, exploit technological vulnerabilities, and manipulate both psychological and political dynamics to their advantage, creating a web of influence that extended from the edge of the spiral arms to core sectors previously considered untouchable. On liberated worlds, humans established self-sustaining defense networks, integrated with advanced energy shielding, rapid response drones, and autonomous reconnaissance units, creating layers of protection that allowed populations to maintain normalcy while remaining fully prepared for potential aggression, demonstrating that humanity's mastery combined not only offense but enduring, adaptable defense. Simultaneously, human intelligence networks intercepted, decrypted, and manipulated alien communications, creating cascading disruptions within command hierarchies, spreading confusion, and ensuring that alien leaders were forced to react to scenarios humans had already calculated, reinforcing perception that the humans were always several steps ahead, and turning misjudgment into disaster for any species daring to confront Earth. Across neutral systems, human diplomacy operated as an extension of strategy, carefully aligning former skeptics, subtly undermining adversary influence, and establishing partnerships that enhance security and capability without revealing the full scope of humanity's military and technological superiority, ensuring that the galaxy understood the consequences of neglecting Earth's rise even before direct confrontation occurred. In orbital battle zones, human fleets executed maneuvers that combined deception, precision targeting, and predictive positioning, exploiting both the rigidity of alien protocols and their over-reliance on technological advantage, while simultaneously maintaining flexibility to respond to unpredictable variables, creating a dynamic operational environment that constantly forced alien forces into defensive stances and reactive errors. Human engineers continue to develop and deploy innovations that expanded both fleet and planetary capability, integrating energy manipulation, propulsion enhancement, and automated strategic systems into a seamless network that amplified the effectiveness of every engagement, while civilians contributed to intelligence, logistics, and research in ways that reinforced operational depth and resilience, demonstrating a societal integration of purpose and capability unparalleled in galactic history. Alien leadership, frustrated by repeated failures and escalating losses, attempted to coordinate massive counteroffensives, sending fleets across multiple vectors and attempting simultaneous strikes to overwhelm human forces, only to find each maneuver anticipated, neutralized, or turned to their disadvantage through a combination of tactical foresight, real-time intelligence, and pre-positioned defensive measures that rendered conventional superiority ineffective and exposed critical vulnerabilities in alien coordination and planning. Across contested sectors, liberated populations contributed actively to both defense and reconstruction, creating a multiplier effect in human capability that accelerated stabilization, enhanced resilience, and ensured that gains made were sustainable while adversaries scrambled to regain control, facing not only military resistance but widespread civil cooperation in support of Earth's initiatives. Human commanders orchestrated operations with an unprecedented integration of strategy, logistics, technology, and psychology, blending restraint with overwhelming capability to enforce both tactical objectives and long-term political positioning, ensuring that every engagement carried consequences that extended far beyond immediate outcomes and demonstrated humanity's mastery of interstellar conflict, influence, and governance simultaneously. In communications, humans leveraged subtle diplomacy and controlled disclosures of capability to manipulate alien perception, sow confusion, and reinforce deterrence, while intelligence operations intercepted every attempt to coordinate against Earth, turning enemy miscommunication and internal friction into strategic advantage. Psychological operations further amplified human influence, with targeted displays of technological and tactical prowess designed to intimidate, disrupt, and preemptively shape the decision-making of alien adversaries, reinforcing a narrative that humanity was patient yet inexorably precise, restrained yet unassailably capable. A combination that eroded confidence and morale among even the most disciplined alien commanders. Throughout liberated systems, human-led stabilization initiatives integrated local expertise, adaptive technology, and continuous intelligence feedback, creating resilient infrastructures capable of responding autonomously to threats while maintaining alignment with broader strategic objectives, demonstrating the unmatched efficiency of coordinated, human-led governance and defense. The aliens' repeated miscalculations, compounded by their inability to anticipate humanity's foresight, resulted in cascading operational failures, strategic disarray, and internal dissent, forcing factions into reactive strategies that only amplified human advantage and accelerated the erosion of enemy influence across multiple sectors. Even as humans demonstrated restraint, measured force, and ethical engagement, the perception of overwhelming capacity spread throughout the galaxy, with civilizations recognizing that any aggression toward Earth would trigger consequences meticulously calculated, strategically executed, and devastatingly effective, establishing humanity not only as a dominant military power but as an arbiter of interstellar consequence and stability. Operational and strategic integration extended to every aspect of human activity, combining advanced technology, predictive modeling, real-time intelligence, and psychological manipulation into a coherent system that ensured success across both combat and governance, while simultaneously cultivating loyalty, resilience, and adaptive capacity among allied and liberated populations, creating a network of influence that rendered traditional power structures increasingly irrelevant. Alien empires, confronted with the inevitability of human dominance, debated retreat, negotiation, or escalation, yet each option was constrained by the undeniable demonstration of human capability, patience, and ethical strategic calculus, ensuring that any decision carried profound consequences that could not be fully mitigated. Across the galaxy, the repeated successes of human campaigns reshaped political dynamics, destabilized formerly secure empires, and inspired or among neutral civilizations, forcing a collective re-evaluation of assumptions about technological superiority, tactical dominance, and the underestimated potential of a species once thought weak, vulnerable, and inconsequential. As humans continue to expand influence, fortify defenses, and integrate liberated populations, the galaxy gradually accepted a new paradigm. That Earth, long ignored, threatened, and attacked, was now a decisive and principle-driven power whose patience, intelligence, and adaptability had transformed every miscalculation by its adversaries into irreversible consequences, and that the price for provocation was being exacted in full measure, meticulously, effectively, and without mercy, ensuring that humanity would never again be underestimated, disregarded, or attacked without the galaxy paying the ultimate price for its hubris. Humanity's calculated campaigns had now entered a phase where anticipation, adaptation, and precise execution merged into a demonstration of interstellar dominance that left the galaxy reeling, and even the most formidable alien empires began to recognize that the cost of underestimating Earth was no longer theoretical but immediate, tangible, and devastating. From orbital command hubs to planetary defense centers, humans coordinated simultaneous operations across multiple sectors, blending offensive precision with defensive resilience, psychological manipulation, and strategic diplomacy in a seamless system that ensured every action reinforced both immediate objectives and long-term influence. Alien forces, once confident in their technological and numerical superiority, found themselves consistently outmaneuvered, their attacks predicted and neutralized by human fleets that exploited both the rigidity of alien command structures and predictable flaws in their planning, while decentralized planetary defenses autonomously countered localized threats, leaving invaders frustrated, depleted, and increasingly desperate. Within human leadership councils, commanders, scientists, and diplomats integrated every incoming piece of intelligence into comprehensive strategies, anticipating enemy reactions, exploiting overconfidence, and calculating optimal timing for decisive interventions, ensuring that each engagement, whether a skirmish, a blockade, or a liberation effort, carried maximum strategic weight and compounded the adversary's disarray. The liberated populations, now participants in defense and governance, reinforce human operational depth, contributing localized knowledge, technical expertise, and intelligence that multiply the effectiveness of every initiative, while simultaneously fostering loyalty and resilience that ensure that newly protected systems would remain stable and aligned with Earth's strategic objectives. Alien political and military leaders scrambled to respond to the relentless human advance, convening emergency councils, issuing ultimatums, and attempting rapid redeployments, only to encounter preemptive countermeasures, adaptive tactics, and unexpected vulnerabilities that had been meticulously planned and implemented by human strategists, demonstrating that the human's mastery extended far beyond technology or numbers into predictive cognition, operational foresight, and precise orchestration of multi-domain campaigns. In theaters of conflict, human fleets executed operations that combined precision strikes, diversionary maneuvers, and psychological disruption, often immobilizing superior enemy formations with minimal exposure, while simultaneously maintaining flexibility to exploit emergent weaknesses and turning what appeared to be minor skirmishes into decisive strategic advantages that destabilized entire sectors and forced alien leaders to reconsider the efficacy of their doctrines. Across neutral and formerly subjugated systems, human diplomatic efforts created networks of alignment, cooperation, and support that reinforced operational security, expanded influence, and isolated hostile factions, turning alliances into force multipliers and demonstrating that power extended beyond firepower into governance, negotiation, and strategic perception. On Earth, civilian and military sectors worked in tandem to continuously innovate, test, and deploy adaptive technologies ranging from energy manipulation arrays to autonomous defense platforms, ensuring that human capability remained ahead of any conceivable threat while providing redundancy and resilience that made surprise attacks nearly impossible to execute successfully. Alien attempts to infiltrate, sabotage, or manipulate human operations were repeatedly anticipated, countered, and converted into strategic advantages, with intelligence networks identifying operatives, decoding communications, and exploiting cultural or procedural assumptions to create cascading failures among enemy ranks, further destabilizing command cohesion and reducing the effectiveness of every offensive initiative. In addition to military dominance, humans leveraged calculated restraint, ethical engagement, and principled decision-making to demonstrate that power could be exercised without unnecessary destruction, establishing a reputation that combined fear, respect, and moral authority, a combination that complicated a strategic calculus for alien civilizations accustomed to coercion, intimidation, or brute force as a primary means of influence. The integration of liberated populations into governance, intelligence, and defensive networks ensured that every occupied system contributed to the broader human strategy, creating resilient, self-sustaining networks capable of autonomous action in alignment with central objectives, multiplying the reach, adaptability, and influence of human operations far beyond the immediate reach of Earth-based command centers. Across sectors, repeated alien miscalculations, compounded by the humans' anticipatory strategies, adaptive technologies, and operational discipline, resulted in cascading defeats, disrupted supply chains, and fractured alliances, leaving entire civilizations exposed, demoralized, and forced to reconsider any engagement with Earth, as the consequences of provocation became both evident and unavoidable. In fleet engagements, human commanders demonstrated a mastery of spatial strategy, energy distribution, and predictive maneuvering that rendered even advanced alien technologies ineffective, turning technological superiority into a liability for those who had once believed themselves invincible, while maintaining operational security and strategic flexibility that allowed for rapid adaptation to evolving scenarios. Strategic communication reinforced the psychological impact of human dominance, with selective disclosures, calibrated displays of force, and controlled interactions shaping perception across the galaxy, ensuring that potential adversaries recognize the futility of aggression and the inevitability of consequence, and that neutral or allied species aligned voluntarily with Earth's objectives out of both respect and prudence. Even as humans executed campaigns of overwhelming effectiveness, they balanced efficiency with restraint, demonstrating that mastery of conflict was not measured solely by destruction but by precision, influence, and the capacity to enforce stability across liberated and allied systems, creating enduring structures of governance, security, and resilience that extended humanity's reach and authority. Alien factions, increasingly desperate and fragmented, faced repeated strategic dilemmas, finding that every offensive measure triggered countermeasures that humans had anticipated and that every attempt at deception was either neutralized or reversed, leaving invaders demoralized and increasingly aware that the cost of provocation had escalated beyond recovery. Throughout the galaxy, reports of human operations, successful liberations, neutralizations of advanced fleets, stabilization of sectors, and ethical yet decisive engagements spread rapidly, reinforcing the narrative that Earth was no longer a backwater planet but a decisive power whose patience, foresight, and capability dictated the tempo, scope, and consequences of interstellar affairs. In every theater, humans maintained operational coherence, strategic adaptability, and ethical discipline, demonstrating that their superiority was multidimensional, encompassing technology, tactics, intelligence, diplomacy, and governance, creating a level of influence that forced alien empires to acknowledge their underestimation and confront the reality that humanity had irrevocably shifted the balance of power. The culmination of these efforts created a galaxy-wide understanding that any aggression toward Earth or any attempt to exploit its perceived weakness would trigger consequences meticulously planned, strategically executed, and devastatingly effective, ensuring that the humans, once ignored, threatened, and attacked, now commanded both respect and caution across every sector, while reinforcing a legacy of ingenuity, discipline, and relentless adaptation that guaranteed their primacy for generations to come, leaving the galaxy with the indelible knowledge that the price for underestimating humanity had become both undeniable and permanent. The final phase of humanity's assertion of dominance unfolded with a precision that left the galaxy both awestruck and terrified, as fleets, planetary defenses, liberated populations, and intelligence networks converge into a seamless system of unparalleled coordination, demonstrating that the species once dismissed as fragile, insignificant, or expendable had mastered every facet of interstellar engagement, from strategic foresight to technological innovation, from diplomacy to psychological warfare, ensuring that every move, every decision, and every consequence reinforce humanity's position as an unassailable power. Alien empires, fractured by repeated defeats, internal dissent, and the realization that every calculation had been anticipated, attempted desperate measures, concentrated strikes, covert operations, and political maneuvering intended to destabilize Earth's influence, yet each effort met with adaptive countermeasures, precision tactics, and foresight so advanced that failure was inevitable. And in every encounter, the consequences for provocation became exponentially more severe. Humans, fully aware of the delicate balance between demonstration of force and ethical engagement, employed overwhelming capability only when necessary, ensuring that victories were decisive yet principled, sending a clear message that the cost of aggression would be absolute, measured, and unavoidable. Across liberated and allied systems, human-led infrastructure stabilized civilizations that had long suffered under alien dominion, integrating advanced defensive technologies, autonomous governance systems, and rapid response protocols, creating enduring networks of security, prosperity, and loyalty that magnified humanity's influence far beyond the immediate reach of fleets or energy arrays. Intelligence operations intercepted and countered every remaining attempt at deception, infiltration, or sabotage, converting enemy initiatives into opportunities for further strategic gain, while predictive modeling allowed human leaders to anticipate the long-term consequences of every maneuver, ensuring that even minor engagements reinforce the broader objective, establishing humanity as a defining power of the galaxy. In orbital theaters, human fleets executed coordinated maneuvers that neutralized entire alien formations with precision and minimal loss, combining energy manipulation, adaptive propulsion, and tactical ingenuity to render technological superiority irrelevant, while simultaneously maintaining flexibility to address unforeseen variables, demonstrating that mastery lay as much in adaptability as in raw firepower. Alien civilizations, witnessing the inevitability of their defeats, the liberation of sectors under their control, and consolidation of human influence, struggled to reconcile the reality that Earth's rise was neither random nor accidental, but the product of deliberate patience, meticulous planning, and relentless application of intellect, innovation, and strategic discipline. Diplomatically, humans engaged selectively, reinforcing alliances, isolating aggressive factions, and leveraging perception management to ensure that the galaxy understood both the capability and the principle underlying their actions. Aggression would be met with decisive consequence, restraint was deliberate, and morality was inseparable from mastery. Across multiple theaters of conflict and influence, humans demonstrated an integration of technology, intelligence, and ethical strategy that left adversaries incapacitated not merely through force but through anticipation, precision, and the inescapable inevitability of human calculation, creating a psychological and operational dominance that transformed interstellar power structures permanently. Even as fleets advanced, planetary networks stabilized, and liberated populations integrated into human-guided systems, Earth maintained strategic discretion, revealing only as much capability as necessary to enforce deterrence while withholding ultimate power until deployment could yield maximum impact, ensuring that the galaxy understood the consequences of provocation without the need for wanton destruction. Alien leaders, recognizing the futility of resistance and the overwhelming advantage humanity had achieved, were forced to negotiate from positions of weakness, retract aggressive actions, and reconsider alliances, trade networks, and territorial ambitions, acknowledging that the cost of underestimating Earth had become both immediate and irreversible. In liberated sectors, humans established self-sufficient defense and governance structures, blending local expertise with advanced technology, autonomous monitoring, and integrated intelligence networks that ensured stability, security, and loyalty, while simultaneously allowing Earth to project influence efficiently across vast distances, amplifying operational reach without overextension. Across diplomatic channels, subtle displays of human power, combined with evidence of principled governance and ethical engagement, reshape galactic perceptions, creating an environment where respect, caution, and voluntary alignment replace fear, coercion, and domination, reinforcing that the human's rise was defined as much by intellect and moral authority as by tactical or technological superiority. In the final confrontations, fleets that had once assumed invincibility were dismantled through coordinated strikes, strategic misdirection, and adaptive technology that neutralized advantage at every level, while alien command hierarchies collapsed under the weight of miscalculation, miscommunication, and the relentless precision of human planning, leaving entire civilizations in awe of Earth's capabilities and deeply aware of the consequences of provocation. Across the galaxy, civilizations witness a consolidation of human power not as chaos or conquest, but as deliberate, principle-driven mastery, reinforcing the narrative that Earth's inhabitants, once ignored, threatened, or attacked, had transformed themselves into an apex force capable of enforcing consequences, stabilizing liberated sectors, and dictating the terms of interstellar engagement, forever altering the balance of power. The integration of intelligence, technology, strategic foresight, diplomacy, and ethical decision-making created a template for sustained dominance, ensuring that humanity's influence would endure, that alliances would remain stable, and that adversaries would reconsider any future aggression with extreme caution, knowing that the cost would be both absolute and meticulously calculated. In the wake of their final operations, humans secured the galaxy's recognition not only of their strength but also of their discipline, moral clarity, and strategic genius, leaving former aggressors, neutral civilizations, and allies alike to acknowledge that the species they had once underestimated had irrevocably reshaped interstellar dynamics, enforcing consequences that were unavoidable, proportional, and permanent. As fleets withdrew to strategic positions, defenses were reinforced, and liberated populations celebrated newfound autonomy and security, the galaxy finally understood a truth that had long been ignored. Humanity, restrained yet unyielding, patient yet decisive, had paid every provocation in full, demonstrated the full breadth of their ingenuity, and cemented their place as a species whose potential could never again be underestimated, whose capacity for consequence was absolute, and whose rise had irrevocably rewritten the rules of engagement for every civilization in the stars, ensuring that the price for underestimating humans had been paid completely, permanently, and without exception, leaving the galaxy to remember that Earth, once dismissed, had become the ultimate arbiter of power, consequence, and respect, and that no attack, slight, or misjudgment would ever go unanswered again.